slate. We've got Mary Fay, who is running for comptroller, and we've got Dominic Rapini, who is running for Secretary of the State. So, and I'm going to do a formal introduction here when Ronnie gives me the all clear. And then Ronnie, hopefully you see in the background that all of our titles are correct and all that background stuff we got corrected. Hopefully you're going to see that too. So. It's kind of a gloomy Monday. And I'll talk a little bit about the weather here, but hopefully, actually, they said it was going to rain through tomorrow, but now they're saying it's not, but it's going to be chilly. It's going to really feel like October. Ooh,
So we're good to go, John, and it's actually not gloomy where I am.
Oh, is it? Oh, no, it's not. Okay. Yeah, Ronnie's at our news bureau in Nantucket. So I'm at the news bureau in West Hartford. Ronnie's holding down the Nantucket news bureau. Sorry, all right, these guys can't hear you. I got to bring them on. So let me bring the guests on. It's going to take me a moment to get everybody organized. So they're coming on, and we'll be ready to go in 2 seconds.
All right.
All righty. Hello, Ronnie. How are you?
Hello, I'm good, John. How are you?
Good. So actually, before we start, we have breaking news. Adrienne Billings-Smith, you want to talk for a second about that? She is stepping down as a town councilor. Maybe we'll get Mary to give us a hot take on that. But Ronnie, give us the story.
Well, sure. I actually just published the story this morning, and Adrienne has announced that she has been hired by the town of West Hartford as the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Coordinator. She'll be reporting directly to Rosina Haskins, who's the Executive Director of Equity Advancement. I think I got that right. And she'll be starting that job November 9th. But in the meantime, last Friday, she tendered her resignation from the West Hartford Town Council because she can't be a town employee and a town council member at the same time. So that will leave open the space for somebody else to be coming onto town council to take her place. And the Democratic Town Committee will be sending whoever they're nominating to take that place to the town council for their approval at some point in the next couple of weeks.
And Ronnie just broke the story probably within the last half hour. So,
Mary, it's been about an hour.
Has it been
okay?
So, Ronnie had it first, as she tends to do, and so it was big news. Mary, I know what she wasn't on council a long time. You get to work with her. Anything, any comments, any thoughts as she moves on to her next challenge?
Yeah, I think it will be a loss for the council. It was a very short tenure. But I wish her extremely well in her new role, as I would anyone. So it's a good move for the town, I suppose. And a lot of these jobs do go to Democrats, just like our corporation council and my opponent at Tweed Airport.
We're gonna talk. I gotta do the introduction. We're gonna talk plenty about that, Mary.
I wish Adrienne well in her role.
Good. All right. Well, we do too. Adrienne, congratulations on behalf of Ronnie and me. We definitely wish you our best too as you move on. You're a good friend, and we're excited to see your next challenge. So, welcome to the WeHa.com Roundtable. I'm John Lyons, joined as always by the managing editor of WeHa.com, Ronnie Newton. Kind of an interesting introduction today. I kind of took a back road to it, but we're being broadcast on WeHa.com, regionally on WHCI TV channel 5, and statewide on Connecticut News Junkie, as well as several other sites, and of course, Neighbors and Friends, Patty's site, and the Political Forum, which is Rocky's and Sandy's site. So thank you all for carrying us. We continue to close in on Election Day with several Connecticut statewide races up for grabs. Today, we welcome two more of the statewide candidates for office, Mary Fay, who we were just talking to, who is running for comptroller as the GOP endorsed candidate, and Dominic Rapini, who's running for Secretary of State. Ms. Fay is the minority leader for the West Hartford Town Council and the executive director of the CRSA. Mr. Rapini is currently an Apple executive and serves on the Branford RTC and is also a member of the Connecticut Republican Assembly, the CTRA. So there's a lot of acronyms here, which maybe we'll dig into a little bit. So all of you, welcome to the show. Thank you very, very much for coming on. Mary, let's start with you. I guess let's talk about, we posed this question last week, but for maybe some of your supporters and all that are tuning in, talk a little bit about what the comptroller actually does and what skills do you bring to the role if you are elected?
Thank you, John, for that question. And honestly, going back to the other one, I do wish Adrian the best. I think she will be great for that role. It's just what we're trying to fight against is where our money goes, and we want to make sure that instead of keep on, and this does relate to the question you asked me, putting the dominant party into positions, that we provide a level playing field. And they've been ruling for a long time. So the comptroller is the chief financial officer of the state of Connecticut. They're responsible for every dollar that comes in and every dollar that goes out. And you need to be an accountant, which I am. And I also have an MBA in finance. And the two unique things that I bring to the table, or I have run at the very senior executive level, reporting to the CEO of Fortune 50 companies, both the retirement and pension businesses for GE Capital, ING, and Sun Life, and healthcare businesses for the same companies as well as AIG. So those are the bulk of the budget items that we're funding as taxpayers, and we have to make sure they're running efficiently. Now, how to put the problem in light, the best way that I can describe it is we have 65,000 employees, and we have a 25 billion annual budget, and we have 3.5 million residents. And we're number 50 out of 50 in financial condition and financial outlook, and we have been for 2 years running. And we're also high on business unfriendliness, and we're very low on retirement livability. So having said all that, there are solutions. That's the bad news. There are solutions, but you have to have the political will. Same size budget, same number of employees. North Carolina, right? North Carolina, they have 15 million residents. So that's 5 times our size, and they're in the top 5. And livability, financial condition, financial outlook, and business attraction. So all I'm suggesting is there a compromise in between so that we can be as high as we are on service, which I love Connecticut. That's why I'm fighting for it. I love Connecticut and I love West Hartford, and I'm fighting for every taxpayer in my town. This is a financial position. We need to do better. We have to do better than 50 out of 50. We have to make it more affordable for all, and equality means being equal to all and making it livable for all. So that's what I'm about. That's what I'm fighting for. And you need these financial skills, and you need this finance leadership, and you need these competencies in retirement and healthcare and the actuarial side to get this thing running so the money's spent in the right places. I love our state employees. It's not about them. They are terrific. A lot of them are my friends. We're not talking about getting rid of them. We're not talking about laying them off or demoralizing them. We're talking about moving them in the right direction to provide the best value for taxpayers, businesses, and residents so we can keep moving forward. And it's going to take care of itself. Right now, we're in an opportune place with all these retirements. Why don't we try to jigger it and make sure people can have rewarding jobs instead of just replenishing it the way it is? We need to change the dynamic here. And it's not a political position that I'm talking about. It's a straight, old, boring accounting position. But I'm going to bring sexy back to comptrollers. So you wait and see.
Well, there's certainly a lot to unpack there. But one question I have, and I just want to make sure that other people can look this up. The statistic that you've been citing about Connecticut being 50 out of 50, where can we find that?
Sure. It's been for 2021 and 2022. It just came out in October. It's called Truth in Accounting. They've been around for eons, but you can cite a different source. So I don't think that's the material fact. I've used others. The site I stated about 39 for business friendliness. That's from a completely different source. That's from Art Laffer and others. So you can cite whatever. The point that I'm making is we're in the bottom, and we can do better, and we must do better. And I want Connecticut to be prosperous for all. It's not a bias source. It's Truth in Accounting is accounting.
Okay. So, all right. So one of the interesting things that could happen here, and I'll direct this question to both of you, and then we'll, Dominic, we'll head over to you for a question, but is, there's every possibility that one of you could be elected, and yet Ned Lamont is reelected, and you're dealing in a situation where it's a mix now of constitutionals, where some are Democrat, some are Republican. Dominic, let's start with you. How do you work across party lines? What do you bring to the table to work across party lines? How would you handle that?
Yeah, John, that's a good question. So I'm not afraid of that scenario. I have the personality and the experience to work with anybody regardless of their background. Currently today I work in U.S. retail. I work with major retailers. I work with executives at all these different entities. I've been doing this my whole life, working in small and medium business. And I'm able to work with people who are very different from me politically, at least in the workplace. And we're able to find the common ground and focus on the solutions. And as long as Neville Mott would be willing to focus on solutions, I think we're going to be just fine. Most of the things I want to do are not political in nature. They're not ideological, right? They're very pragmatic, solutions for elections, for improving data offerings to our business community. I mean, there's nothing here that's going to be, really suited for an ideologue. So I think that's going to keep us give us a lot of common ground to talk about just do business together.
Well, I mean, clearly, neither of your positions really are intrinsically political. But Dominic, can you highlight a few of the initiatives you'd like to see come to the Secretary of the State's office?
Yeah, absolutely. There's there's the number one priority in this office right now is getting the technology of this office under control. It is probably the most technologically demanding office in Hartford, and I've got decades of experience in technology at all different levels. And we have just starting with our election machines, the tabulators that count our votes. They are 5 years past their expiration date. They should have been phased. They should have been a phased out transition starting maybe 7 years ago. On primary day, 118 machines failed. Registrars can't get the white paper to print the tickets on them anymore. They have to cut them down. They have to go buy something at Staples and cut them down. I mean, we're in difficult shape. So the number one priority is outfit 500 precincts, and also make sure we have a reserve plan with forward deployed units around the state. The second part of that technology plan is our election software. This week has been a horrible week for the election software that our election officials use. It's called CBRS. It's going down over and over again throughout the state. I was getting calls today about 7 towns that went down. And why that's a problem is this is the busy time, right? Absentee ballots coming in, people, new registrations coming in, and what's happening is a lot of our election officials are part-time, Ronnie, right? So you come in for your 10-hour week, and the first 2 hours you're there, you can't even get into the software to do your work. So getting our technology into the 21st century will be a number one goal. Not the only one, but that's job one for us.
So you're talking about now, I have a disadvantage here. I can only speak, and I probably speak for Ronnie when I say this, is we look at West Hartford's voting and it goes very, very smoothly. We know the registrars, we know all of the people involved in the process. The equipment works fine. Is the equipment purchased at the state level or is it purchased at the town level?
This equipment will be. It's been a little bit of both over the years, from what I understand. But my goal is to buy all the machines at the state level and buy them for our town so they don't become an unfunded mandate. They have to get them. I also want to make sure that we have the same equipment across the board. We have a service plan across the board for 169 towns. And yeah, John, on any given election, certainly everyone can have a great day with the stuff. But, we have to solve for 169 towns, right? And that is certainly not what we're seeing across the board. And it's just everything's a ticking time bomb. But that's something I would like to, we're going to make that happen across the board for our election officials in our cities. And then we're going to have a deployment strategy. So everything happens the same way for every town.
What do you see as your key roles? You mentioned election. We covered that. What do you see as your key roles as Secretary of the State?
So Secretary of State, you're the CEO of an organization, right? So, I have a staff of 85 people that I got to pull together and build a culture there I want everyone to start thinking about doing the best work of their lives in working on connected elections and on the business side. So my role is identify the initiatives and priorities of the office. I have priorities for helping the military vote overseas. I have priorities for making sure our voters every voter can log in online and order an absentee ballot securely and safely and efficiently. I have priorities to bring in electronic poll books and technologies that makes our election day experience faster and gives us more information about our elections. And building the whole data structure so that our election officials have the support and heart they need to work on the voter rolls and make informed decisions. So, it's all these different initiatives on the election side. On the business side, our businesses need data, right? They need data about, who's opening up, who's coming to Connecticut, what businesses are closing, why are they closing? Where can I find an organization that built that? I have an aeronautics firm. I want to move to Stanford. I'm coming from, wherever, some other part of the country. Where in Connecticut are they making the ball bearings, right? We don't have that information. That information has to come from the federal government. And that's a big miss for us. So building business-to-business marketing tools for our business community is going to be on that side, a very big initiative for me. And with all my years in business as a small business owner, a vice president of manufacturing, and now my 26 years at Apple, I think I'm going to have a lot of credibility, for all of our business leaders. Most of them, small and medium business, less than 100 employees.
May I answer the question if the Democrats remain in power?
By all means. Yeah, by all means. Yep.
No, sorry. That just made a good impression on me. So clearly, I've had experience doing that as the minority leader, 3 with 6 Democrats, and I think the records speak for itself. A lot of things, Ronnie, as you well know, go through unanimously, and we don't obstruct or get in the middle and say no just to say no. We do listen to our constituents. We are there to represent them. I've solved problems for everybody, including very liberal Democrats who will never vote for me. But I still advocate and work on their behalf. That's what you're supposed to do as a counselor. And I think, if it makes sense, it doesn't matter where it comes from. The only thing I will say, it's tough to advocate for conservative positions as a minority leader, but so be it. So, we work with the Democrats and we do every day. So I'd like to say that. And I think I have the record to show that. I do get a lot of unaffiliated votes in West Hartford. I do get some Democrat votes. And I'm grateful for that because I take my work seriously. And I truly try to help everybody and do the right thing for the taxpayer and the businesses in town. Honestly, that's my first priority, as well as the children and the seniors. So I just wanted to make that clear. So actually, to be honest, I think the best, and I don't know why we all say to be honest, we're always honest, but the best setup in our government, and Lincoln did this with a team of rivals, I think it would be exemplary to work with Governor Lamont and for me to be his comptroller. I can speak for that. It really, truly is a nonpartisan job. You really call it like you see it. And I think if we were from different parties, it would be easier to say, hey, watch out on this one. You're up against compliance here or what have you. I think it would be helpful for our checks and balances. But obviously, I want the Republican team to win because we've had 4 decades of Democrats, and we just need to progress further and get back to that bright, shiny star that we used to be on the Hill, where Connecticut was the envy of people to live in and for businesses to come. That's what I aspire to, and that's what will give us the opportunity for all. And we can make that happen. Honestly, there's solutions to the pension obligations that are unfunded. There are solutions to the medical obligations that aren't even on our balance sheet to be accounted for. There are solutions for a whole bunch of things. There's a solution to make our government more efficient, not through destroying and eliminating services, but making it more efficient. Dominic talked about systems. I believe that as well. The unemployment system was run on COBOL, so it takes that many more people. And we can manage it to get to the appropriate delivery and the right cost so that we can move forward. That's what this position is about. And that's what I want to do. And it's going to take everybody. We all have to work together. Thank you.
Ronnie,
I just, I'm probably one of the few people who has spent like years studying pension obligations and unfunded liabilities. I spent about 2 years really learning about it when the town was discussing how to deal with its own unfunded pension liabilities, and ultimately made the decision to purchase pension obligation bonds statewide. And I did hear you mention this at the Meet the Candidates forum at the Bishop's Corner Senior Center, but what, without getting too deep into the weeds, how do you think the state can best deal with those pension obligations?
Truly, thank you for that. No, and hats off to you. It's very complicated, and whenever I've tried to explain it to folks, it is difficult. I don't expect the layperson or even a finance guy to understand it. It's very sophisticated. So
Yeah,
hats off
econ
to
degree
you.
here. So
I know we all do. I do too. But it's hard to communicate that message to folks. So there is ways to do it. The way that West Hartford chose to do was to refinance the obligation and stretch it out for 40 years. But you're still subject to mortality, morbidity, actuarial assumptions, market conditions, interest rates, all that kind of stuff like that. So it doesn't, it's a temporary relief, but it doesn't permanently solve it. Another way is to have a pension buyout where you can go and there's like a three-pronged solution. And it can be a combination, to be honest. But you can actually go out to pensioners and the younger ones who might a bird in the hand is more valuable than to a string of payments, and you offer them a buyout. And they're out of the system, so you're no more subject to the market risk, interest rate, and mortality assumptions. The other is to outsource the complete liability to an insurer or a reinsurer. You'll have to pay them for that, but then it's gone, and you start fresh. And now that we know the new benefits going further, which still need more redesign, but they're not going to cause that obligation. Pensions are a thing of the 20s, 30s, and 40s. They don't work in the 80s, 90s, and 2000s. You need to do something else. So those are three ways. Those are three ways that you can do that. But you have to have it's going to cost us money because there is an asset in exchange for a liability. And right now, we just see our budgets increase without better delivery or services, and this liability is hanging out there, and taxpayers are on the hook. That's the best and easiest way I can explain it. There is three solutions. West Hartford picked one. I'm not going to debate whether that was the best but it is a solution. So we did at least address it, but there's other things that we can do, and the state has to start addressing it. So whether I like the ultimate solution that West Hartford chose, I'm pleased that they took it on, and we're in better shape than we were.
So how do
I
we?
hope that answers that.
So you two brought up two very big, broad, what I view as expensive issues. Again, I'm not an expert in this subject matter,
Right.
But Dominic, you talked about elections outfitting every town with a state purchased voting machines. I guess I assume for uniformity, outfitting every town so that they can do electronic request your absentee ballots electronically. And then, Mary, you're talking about really take. And I know these are big issues. I'm not diminishing these issues, but taking on huge, which we all agree, huge unfunded pension obligations. The state's doing better on that, but we're still not at the finish line. How do we pay for all of this without adding additional tax burden to our residents?
Well, for one, let's stop these overruns. Every project we engage in is over, and it's not just over by 10 cents and nickels and billions, triples, quadruples. That's got to stop. Who's watching the hen house? That's ridiculous. More money doesn't solve every problem. There's other solutions. Hey, I used to run big businesses, and we were able to deliver better service and measured in Six Sigma with less money spent. They easily go to more money, tax more. No, if you were running your own household or your own business, that wouldn't be your first solution because you can't do it. You can't automatically increase your income unless you can create money out of the air, and you can't automatically reduce your expenses. You have a car insurance and car, tax, and you got your mortgage. So you have to be creative. What do you do in your household? Well, if you're shopping at Whole Foods, you start shopping at Stop and Shop. If you shop at Stop and Shop, you start going to Aldi's. The problem is, though, people at Aldi's have nowhere to go. And we have to change that. So it's nice to be up here and have choices. A lot of us don't. We should have more choice in how we spend our money in the government. And these cost overruns and wastes of money and ridiculous expenses. Look, they vote for their own raises. My opponent just voted for a raise in the legislature, and he voted for a raise in the constitutional officer's job. Why? Because he wants to make up for what he's going to lose by having to leave his sweetheart Tweed airport deal. It's too incestuous. They're making decisions that benefit themselves, not the residents and not the taxpayers, not the businesses. It's got to end. I can go on with example after example, but I don't want to. It just, you need somebody in who's going to take a fresh approach.
To the state, and Mary, we're in a small town. We all know state reps, and we all know they're paid. I think it's $32,000 a year if you're not on a committee. And
or a short-term part-time assignment with ludicrous benefits, with mileage reimbursed that goes into their pension, that end up in cabinet jobs like Beth By, like Timothy Larson, where they're making $200,000 and their pension continues. So no, don't cry to me about the public servant. I'm a public servant. I'm a volunteer. I've been doing it for 6 years.
And Mary, I think
they're getting reimbursed, and they're getting, and more so. And
I am on the record. I am on the record. I think town council should be paid. I've had conversations with, I think, virtually every one of you.
I'm not even arguing for that, but these guys,
I know you're not. I know you're not.
Raises.
But I think, if I pick up the phone and call Jillian Gilchrist or Tammy Exum right now, and they're out of session, they've been out of session for months, they take my call, they listen, they meet with me, and I'm not the only constituent.
I'm not saying they're doing a bad
job.
job.
I think it's a full-time job.
But they all have other jobs. They all have other jobs. Look at my opponent. He's the CEO of Tweed Airport, a Democrat appointed quasi agency. He's also a state rep. He gets compensated for both very well. He gets benefits for both. He's not doing this because he's a mercenary. And to be in charge of your own raises and salaries like that, if they want to make it a full-time job, then fine, make it a full-time job. Make them not have conflicts of interest, which they all do. They're union leaders. There are other things while being in the legislature. That's insane. It's not individual representation. So I'm not arguing about it. I'm just saying the way the situation is today. There are other, to your point, John, you just raised, there are other solutions. I would love to make them full-time jobs and not have these other interests at heart. That would be great.
That's what I'm saying, Mary.
That would be great.
I feel they already are. And I think they're, for what they're paid. I mean, the other argument I would make, and I apologize, I don't want to take, but the other argument I would make is, look, we want our best people running for offices, whether it's you, whether it's Dominic, whoever it is, we want our best people running for offices. If we pay them appropriately, we're going to get our best people. So that's why I've lobbied and I push and I will keep pushing. And if I ever run for council, I will push. Council needs to be paid. We need to be able to get the best people regardless of income level. We're not getting our best people now because people cannot afford to run. They cannot afford to run.
If I remember the question, you're asking how would we pay for the different initiatives?
Yeah, sorry, we'll bring it back. So
this is good. This is good.
I'm sort of losing track of the question.
This is good.
Yeah.
So when you think about our election, the conduct of our elections, right, in 169 precincts in all the towns, you got to look. I look at it like infrastructure, right? You always have to pave the roads and build the bridges. So there are certain things that we really need that become our legislative priorities, like the hardware. I think that's a must. There are other things like a lot of software development, learning management tools, things I want to do, where I think I can actually build a private-public partnership to help invest in some of these initiatives in a very nonpartisan way and provide some relief for the taxpayers. So I'm going to explore that. But you know what? The state has to pay for cybersecurity initiatives, right? And all the things around that. We got to make sure everything we need to make sure that our election software is fully upgraded, and then we start investing in the next version of that software. You always got to be looking ahead, right? You got to fix a problem, and as you're fixing a problem, the next solution is already got to be in process, right? We got to pay for that base core infrastructure, but I'd like to see if I can find some private sector investments.
Makes sense.
Ronnie, I've dominated the conversation.
No, I have asked a bunch of questions too. I do want to ask Dominic the question about absentee ballots and early voting. And I know you've been kind of outspoken about not wanting to expand, at least the way I understand it, not wanting to expand absentee voting and not favoring early voting. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, right. I've been studying Connecticut elections since 2019, and I see problems, but I also see a lot of opportunities. So when we look at all the problems we've had with our elections, whether it's the 5 cases of voter fraud that are being investigated by the FBI right now, or just looking at the problems that we've seen around elections, everything has to do with mail-in voting. There's always some abuse of that program that's causing all of our issues. And as Secretary of State, my job is to make sure that our elections are safe, secure, and accessible. Well, two of those three things aren't happening right now on a consistent basis. Now, when we talk about early voting and mail-in voting, I'm okay with one of them, but not both of them. We have a very good absentee ballot program, and I think I have some ideas on how to make our absentee ballot programs far more secure and reliable in terms of preventing outside craziness. So, for example, I want to get political campaigns out of the business of handing out absentee ballot applications. It's causing chaos right now. It caused chaos a year ago in the municipals when ballots were pre-filled out without, in violation of the statute, without the proper signatures. And I just think I want to get campaigns out of that business. That eliminates any ballot harvesting that you might see in Bridgeport and that sort of thing. But also replace that with an easier way for our voters to apply for absentee ballots. And if we decide to go to mail-in voting, I'll make sure it's the best system available. It's going to require ID or social security number to apply for your ballot, but it's going to come right to you. And then you don't need a campaign and have to flood you with 2 or 3 copies of ABRs on election day. On early voting, I have a lot more stress over that, Ronnie, because as I've analyzed that problem, we have a decentralized system, and most of our election officials are part-time. So imagine 30 days of early voting, and there's no reason to say that we won't get that because it's going to be up to a future legislative group. Imagine being somebody who works 10 hours a week, and all the rest of the time you're either working another job or you're taking care of your grandchildren, and also you got to work 20, 30 days in a row, right? It's going to create chaos for that election workforce we have. We're going to lose people. And I think in addition to that, we're going to probably find an unfunded mandate of $15 to $20 million. Now, that's money I'd rather use for more hardware, better software, and some other things that we can be doing. But the onus of that would be squarely on our cities, and it's going to be very hard to sustain that. We got to remember where early voting happens today, Ronnie. It happens in states that have county-based governments. They don't need 169 places to vote. They might have 30, right? Their election officials are full-time, so they can manage that process better than Connecticut can. So I want to make sure we're solving for Connecticut. The final thing is Connecticut has one of the highest voter turnout rates in the United States compared to early voting states like Georgia, Pennsylvania, California. We're at the top. And that's, we've been voting 1 day a year for the last 240 years. And so what we have is a system that's working. But we don't have the infrastructure to take on early voting. If anything, I'd rather see more mail-in voting, Ronnie, because I think we can put more rigor around that and make that, and then everybody has a way to vote if they can't make it on election day.
So, there is a new system that was just instituted, right, for being able to, and this kind of caught me by surprise. I didn't know it was coming, for people to apply online to receive absentee ballots. So you can't vote by absentee ballot online, but just to obtain your ballot.
So I've been advocating for that for over a year now, and I feel that they really rushed something in here to put it within like 30 days of the election. Their election officials haven't even been fully trained on it yet, and it only supports people who have a Connecticut driver's license. It does not support the U.S. military. If you're in an aircraft carrier, you don't have your Connecticut driver's license with you. If you're an elderly person, you don't have that same a driver's license number. You may have something else. If you are an expatriate overseas, where it can take 30 to 40 days for you to be able to get a vote in from beginning to end, you should be able to use your passport. They can still do it the traditional way, but it's not solving for them. That system needed to have social security numbers as an option, and then everybody's covered. And so they rushed it. I'm glad they got something started. The interface, as an Apple guy, you look at the interface, it's like filling out a tax return. We'll scrap that and do that completely over again. But it's a step in the right direction. But we got a long way to go on that to bring that up to my standards.
So you've kind of given us a layered view, but what does it cost and how do we pay for it?
Yeah, so I think the quick answer is the core infrastructure has to be paid for as with any infrastructure. Any initiatives beyond that, my goal will try to be a public-private partnership, and try to get private investment to help us do things like bring that portal up to the right standards, to bring in election day electronic poll books, for example. I'd like to be able to get some private investment for the other things, and I think that's the way we got to look at stuff. And otherwise we just prioritize and get to them when we can find the right funding. But I think our elections are so important. I think it's always going to be worth the investment.
All right, pivot. Ronnie, you want to talk more about elections, or you want to pivot here?
We can pivot. You have a question that hasn't really been asked yet about the interrelationships of the roles.
Yeah. Really talk about how you two would work together if you're both elected. How do the roles interact? Secretary of State, Treasurer, Comptroller. How do they all interact?
Yeah, and then to build on that, also the difference, just so that voters can understand the difference between Comptroller, between Treasurer, between the Budget Director. I think there might be some confusion there.
Right. So I just want to start with this one. Mary, here's the PO. Please pay it.
Did it go through the right approvals?
No, I think we missed
and the right bid process? Yeah. Just kidding. Go ahead, Dom.
Well, that's it. I can't pretend to know all the interagency workings, Ronnie. I've never been in government, but it can't be any different than maybe somewhat different working in a large corporation like I do today. You have a workflow of everything that you're spending. You have to forecast your expenditures. You have to make sure everybody can accrue for them, and then you have a payment schedule as the comptroller's office starts to see the things that our initiatives start to come due on the dates that we're due, and then we set those up, and we have to probably get our vendors approved by the comptroller's office, and so it's just a business relationship at that point.
Mary?
It's true. We all have our own core responsibilities. So in our government of Connecticut, you've got the executive branch, legislative, and it's the governor and the constitutional officers, which are Dominic, Secretary of State, myself, Comptroller, the Treasurer, the Attorney General, and the Attorney General. So, and the rest are appointees. So it's interesting. We report to the people. I view my role very sacredly, and I know Dominic does. We've had this conversation. We report to the people. That's why we're elected officials. We don't report to the governor, and we don't report to anybody else within government, and we're not legislators. So it's a very unique role within the government. I view it 100% bipartisan or unpartisan. I'd rather just say unpartisan. It's got a function that it needs to perform. Now, how I interact with my other constitutional officers is I hope that we can partner to have that purview over what we're trying to accomplish. Clearly, we're trying to accomplish making Connecticut more affordable, making Connecticut the place to do business, and making Connecticut the place where people can rise up through the classes. So how do we do that? So I would be working with each one of my partners on either side, whoever they are, to make sure that we're all in sync and our budgets are working accordingly to our overall goals, and then making sure that the folks who are appointees understand how all that works. So it's a complicated government. The treasurer is responsible for so the comptroller will be the chief financial officer. The treasurer is responsible for all the investments of the programs, which is a very big role. So all the pension assets, the other general fund assets, make sure they're invested appropriately with the best fiduciaries. Dominic's got his role, obviously the attorney general, and then the lieutenant governor. But we do have to partner to some extent. But to your point earlier, your question was a great one. What happens if multiple parties get elected? Then we have to work together. It's that simple. We report to the people.
Everybody does their job.
Right. We report to the people. So I think that's why I'm very proud to run for this, because the people will decide. It's not an appointed job.
I want to say,
so.
Go
ahead, Dominic. I'm sorry.
I met with Pauline Keyser, who was the last Republican Secretary of State back in '94, and she was the only Republican on that constitutional bench. It was Lowell Weicker, there was Democrats, and some independents. And I asked her, so when you're up there together as all the constitutional officers, did you guys meet as a cabinet? He says, no, we never met. We never talked to each other. No one ever signed. They didn't do anything in a coordinated way. Now that was in the mid-90s. It may be different now, but I was shocked to hear that. I mean, yeah. I was looking forward to being part of a team And if that's not the way we do it now, I'm gonna fight for us to do that.
Me too.
Yeah,
Me too.
Let's go.
So, Dominic, so you're talking about initiative. So now, obviously, any expenditure, anything of that sort's got to come through the legislature and be approved by the governor. Have you spoken with
approved by the legislator, right?
Correct. And have you spoken with local state reps? Have you talked about trying to get the issue of I'll call it unified voting into committee, into discussion? Have you made any progress, any discussion there? Do you have relationships with legislatures to start that?
I have a lot of relationships. So we're starting with Vinnie Candelora, Rob Sampson, Gail Master Francesco, Craig Fishbein, Charlie Ferrara, Kim Fiorella. We talk on a regular basis about the things that we do. When I win this thing, what we're going to be out there, be ready to go hit the ground running in January when they're in session. So we have initiatives that we put out there that they're going to help. We're going to work together on those and put them up.
I think to your point, John and Ronnie, just no matter who wins, we all have to work together. And here in West Hartford in particular, as you all know, we have our Democrat slate of legislators in Senate, and they're unopposed, but we work with them. We have to. So it's the right thing to do. And how else are we going to get things done, or at least let them know what someone else might be thinking or what we're thinking that might be helpful? So it doesn't matter. I wish there wasn't such a rallying cry around the parties, especially on a local and a state level, because I'm seeing the same thing that's happening in Washington trickle down. And so when Dominic talked about speaking with the reps, I certainly speak with them too, but I try to reach out the best I can. In fact, I was at the Apple Festival in Glastonbury and hung out with Jason Doucette. He's a Democrat, and I just met him that day at the Apple Festival. And, I grew up in that area, so we were speaking, and there's just so much common ground. The party affiliation is secondary to me.
We are very tribal, guys. It's not, I don't like it. I plan when I get to this office to leave the R at the door because I want to get work done. That's all I care about. I just want to get things done. And I hope, I just hope that we can do better. And if I have to, Mary and I can lead by example.
All right.
The people are counting on us.
Yep.
We have to do better.
If you don't have any more questions, Ron, I've got wrap-up questions, and then I can close us. But do you have anything else to go over before I go there?
Yeah, no, I think we've been on for 40 something minutes. I think I'm good too.
All right. So Mary, I'll start with you. Tell us something positive about yourself that we are not seeing in the ads.
Oh, really? I thought my odds were positive. I really want the best for West Hartford.
I'm not saying your ads are negative. Just tell someone.
Okay. I'm really running because I want the best for West Hartford and for Connecticut. Lifelong native. I'm proud to be part of this community. I really am. As much as I try to bring a counterpoint of view, I love West Hartford and I love Connecticut. I'm proud to raise my daughter through the public schools. And there's a lot of positives. I really believe in that. I just if we can get our act together and not emulate what's going on at the national stage and really let our guards down, we can be even better. So thank you for having us on. You guys are very thorough. I think you do a great service for all of us here. And I know you get a lot of people watching who are outside our wonderful town. So hats off to you. And I'm happy to come back anytime. And Dominic, I can't say enough about him as a friend and as a co-campaigner. So thank you for having us on.
All right, Dominic, your answer to the question.
Yeah. John and Ronnie, first of all, thanks for having us today. I'm very impressed with the program. You guys you're doing great, asking good questions, and you're giving us a chance to talk. So what people need to know about me is that I'm a lifelong Connecticut person. My whole life, I was born in New Haven, raised in Hamden, Connecticut. I played high school football and track there, and my parents made sure that I was the first member of my family to go to college, and I went to school right down the street to you at Trinity College. So I'm a hometown boy. I even used to work the ambulance in Hartford and West Hartford back in the day. And so I've done a lot of things. I used to teach at the Westminster School up in Simsbury, and I've been involved in the Connecticut business community for a long time before joining Apple in '97. I live in Branford now with my wife, Susan, my mother, who's 89 years old. I'm her caretaker. We have 3 of our own children, and we have 3 other children that came to us after foster homes. So we have an extended family that we love here. And I'm in this because, I love this state. And as much as Apple's been my dream job, and believe me, I've been Apple's salesperson of the year twice in the last 2 decades. I have a long time to work there.
I'll say this. I won't ask you to answer the question because you're putting on the spot. But you've been at Apple a quarter of a century. I hope you tucked away a few stock options over the time.
Well, listen, I put all my kids through college, so you know what? They're not going to get the forgiveness loan that's coming out of the federal government right now. I forgave them a long time ago. So it has been a good career, but I'm ready to retire from Apple and make that sacrifice in order to serve Connecticut and each and every one of you. I go into this office being pragmatic. I will not be ideological, and I will be. I'm a relationship builder, and I just really want to get there, roll up my sleeves, and get work done. That's what I've been doing for my whole life, and I want to do that for 2 terms in Hartford, and then I want to hand it off to the next person. I want to go back to private life, just like our founding fathers intended. And that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
All righty. All right. Dominic Rapini, Mary Fay, thank you so much for being on this week's show. We really appreciate you coming on. We wish you the best of luck in the last 20 days or so until Election Day. For Ronnie Newton, I'm John Lyons, and we'll see you next time.
You guys are great. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much.